Sorry about that. Had to go answer the door. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, she fixed the schedule. So when our grandson would come and work there at night, he didn't have to do shit but get his ass on that sofa and go to sleep. God forbid if I was 5 minutes late coming to work to relieve him. At this point, I was working 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week, because she had ran off everybody. And yes, I was late, lots of times. 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes late getting there. Oversleeping. Sleep deprived. You know what I'm saying? Um, he would call in to the agency that we worked for and tell them that I was late. Which they would never call me or tell me anything because they were just glad that I was getting up, showing up to work. But after he quit, that's when they told me. So I said they probably didn't want to tell me that whilst he was working there because they probably didn't want to start any mess or for me to become biased towards him, and they wound up losing a client because the state paid these agencies good money, to send out people to provide care for these people. So they just kept it on wraps. But after he quit, baby, the social worker came out there to where I was working, and baby, she told me everything he said. I mean, he every time, either one of us, if it was me or the other girl who was working back there was late, he would call in. I mean, this dude here was just a bitch. I'm gonna say it. This dude was a bitch. And then her daughter was working back there too. At one point when I first started, she was having a baby, and every time she had a doctor's appointment or whatever, she would call me to come in early to relieve her, which I said yeah. And at that time, like I said at the beginning of the video, I was in school, so I had class, and I would leave class, and I would come, straight there. Sometimes not even going home, and one day she called in to the agency and told them that I come in there with an attitude sometimes, and I act like I don't want to be bothered. She claims one day I walked in and I didn't speak to her. It's just crazy. I think this narcissistic personality must run through their family or something. I mean, they were bigoted. And most people are bigoted, at least have something. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, told people that I came in there and didn't speak to her. Which they didn't tell me anything about it. They waited after she quit and her nephew quit. And then that's when they told me about it. Which they were laughing at him right along with me, for foolishness. They would never come in and work any extra shifts, nothing. And let's go back to her grandson, Miss Pentecostal's grandson. His days off were Fridays and Saturdays. The best times to be off. If I wanted off, those were the nights I would have wanted to be off too, and had the audacity to tell those people, do not call me to work any extra shifts. And and by me back there working 16-hour shifts some days, once you get your client situated, this and that, doze off. I doze off. Everybody worked back there dozed off sometimes. Or if she thought you had dozed off, she'd come busting through that door, raising her voice, talking about, you're not supposed to be back here sleeping. You're being paid. So one day I spoke up for myself. I was like, okay, your grandson works back here too. And the only thing he does is sleep. Like, that's his job title. When I was in training for this job, the state told us we have to check on these clients every 4 hours. You have to get up and go check. If they were incontinent, meaning in diapers, You had to get up and check on them every 4 hours, and if they needed to be changed, you had to change them. This fool comes sit back here for a whole 8 hours, knocked out on the sofa, sleep. When I get here in the morning, the diaper is soaking wet. Sometimes it was so much piss in the damn diaper, so it had leaked out on the sheets and on the boy's covers. So he had been laying back there in that room the whole time with wet, soiled sheets and a blanket. Because this lazy fool sitting up there don't want to get up and check on him. Don't want to check his diaper. Don't want to change a diaper. But he want to check. And you have the audacity to pick up the phone and call in on me and report me. But anyway, let's go back to the sword this guy had on his side. It just would not heal. It kept getting worse. And she kept telling us, squeeze the pus out and put peroxide on it. And put a bandage on it. Put Neosporin. That was not working. So things had become really bad. The agency was calling, look, if you don't get him to a specialist, we're going to have to step in and do it. And she didn't want that because I was going to go on the record and then the state would see it and they would possibly step in and take him away and probably put him in a nursing home or some type of a group home, which I think he would have been better off working. I thought he would have been better off being in a facility that was designed for people with his condition. I used to work at one of those before I took this job. So I know all about it. But the reason why she didn't want him placed in a facility because I was going to cut off the money. And she wasn't going to be able to nickel and dime because when a patient is placed in a facility, they are responsible. All the money and everything comes to them. They are in charge of managing the finances, and she would not be able to. So that there would be no more nickeling and diming. So the agency kept threatening her. So eventually she made an appointment for him to see a specialist, and then they did some x-rays and found out that he had some hardware in here that needed, in his hip that needed to be changed, which this guy wound up having a major surgery. And to get back and forth from these appointments, I had to start coming in 7 days a week because she would only schedule the appointments when I was working. So I had gone to school online full-time and then working this job 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours, 16-hour days. I did it, Like I said before, raised in a Christian home. This person who's not able to take care of himself, I stepped up and I did it. Because remember at first I had told them, look, I needed my 2 days off. So I was coming in back again 7 days a week. Coming in to try to help these people. But anyway, the day of his surgery, something happened. Something happened and I was running late to get there. I tried calling the lady, she didn't answer the phone. Somebody had vandalized my car and I wanted a police report because we had been having this problem where I live, people coming around through the neighborhood vandalizing people's property. And my manager already, who I worked for at the agency, she told me that, the day of his surgery, you don't have to go in because he's going to be in the hospital for several days after the surgery. So the state is not going to pay us and pay the hospital bill. So the person who's working the night shift is to get him dressed and ready for them, Miss Pentecostal and her husband, to take him to the hospital. But She called me and asked me if I would come in